Stangeland, did your son Derek ever indicate to you at any time that Billy Barger had ever done anything physical to him?
No.
Did you ever see Billy Barger boss him around or order him around?
Yes.
How did that affect you?
Yeah, it really hurt.
I'm sorry?
It hurt. It made me feel like I was not protecting my son properly or whatever.
Did there come a time when you tried to find a way out of all of this?
Yes.
And what did that involve?
After the scandal, home invasion, I found a reason to basically load up Derek and head to Florida to some people I knew where I bought a lot of produce back to Kansas City and Oklahoma City from, and was going to try to basically just stay there or just walk away from what was going on at home and get Derek away, because I knew my dad would be okay at that point.
Did you make a trip at that time to
Yes.
Florida? Did you intend to come back to Nevada?
Not right away, no.
And what happened while you were down in Florida?
The first night we were there, it was not the best motel in Tampa that was close to the produce place. The pickup got broke into.
And what happened?
Robbed. Prepaid debit card and other things were taken from the pickup. A lot of Derek's personal items were stolen.
And as a result, did you return back to Nevada?
Yes.
How long were you in Florida for?
Well, three days and a couple nights.
And you drove to Florida
Yes.
and drove back.
Yes.
How did you feel when you returned to Nevada?
I dreaded it the whole way coming back.
What was Derek's thoughts, if any, about going to Florida to live?
If anything was better than being around Billy Barger.
Did there come a time in December of 2009 that a trip was made to New Jersey by you and Andrew Wadle?
Yes.
And what was the itinerary for that trip? What were you to do?
Well, Andrew and I never did make it into the state of New Jersey. We only made it as far as Scranton, Pennsylvania.
And what was the stop in Scranton for?
To try to find a rental car.
Were you able to do that?
No,
Why did you want a rental car?
that's what Barger was ordering because mine had temporary tags on it. No license plates at all.
With regard to your visit to Scranton, were you successful in renting a car there?
No.
What, if anything, occurred at that point in time that would be the next event?
Well, after 2 nights of staying in a hotel there, Barger constantly sending text messages, emails, phone calls, whatever, on how upset he was that I was incapable of even renting a car. We were to return as far as what he called the halfway point of the Indiana, the Ohio and Indiana line is where we had to go back to meet him.
And did you meet Billy there?
Yes,
And who else was with him?
Lonnie's car.
And at that point in time, did you switch cars?
Yes.
What car did you get?
A car that Billy had rented in Pittsburgh, Kansas, that was in Lonnie's name, but was rented with Billy's company credit card.
What kind of car was it?
A little Ford Focus, I think.
And what, if anything, happened then?
Lonnie and I returned and then came on to New Jersey.
And what happened to Billy and Andrew?
I had to write out like an authorization to loan my car to them, is what Barger wanted. So if they got pulled over for any reason, they had proof that they were allowed to drive the car, and they returned back to Missouri.
And you came to New Jersey?
Yes.
And approximately when during December would that have been?
Maybe the first week. I don't know, before like the 10th.
What was your purpose in going to New Jersey?
We were supposed to locate and pick up Jeffrey Muller.
And where did you first go?
To Mawa and Fairlawn, I think it is.
And when you went to Mawa, what, if anything, did you do while you were in Mawa?
Just drove by a house that was on the information that Barger had sent us because we didn't have the location information until we were already back as far as somewhere in Pennsylvania is when that email came through.
Did it give you an address?
Yes.
And did you go to that address then?
Yes.
Did you encounter anyone named Jeffrey Muller there?
No.
Was there anyone there?
No.
Did there come a time when you then went to the other location in Fairlawn?
Yes.
And where did you get that address from?
From the same report that Barger got off the internet.
Did you locate anything at the Fairlawn address that indicated the presence of a Jeffrey Muller?
No.
What did you do with regard to communications with Barger at that point in time?
During the whole time, we were sending emails to him and text messages that, you know, nobody's at this address. The house looked like it had just been either abandoned or foreclosed, and the address in Fairlawn was the Jewish Yellow Pages. So it's like, you know, this isn't even close to being any kind of an investment brokerage business or anything like that.
Did you get instructions to go elsewhere at that point?
Yes.
Where were you told to go?
To Newton, that the Jeffrey Muller of the other addresses was just using this pet food store as a front.
And did you go to that address?
Yes.
And where was it in Newton? Do you remember the address?
Clinton Street, a strip mall or mini mall.
So you'd gone to Mawa, then you had gone to Fairlawn, and now you came to Newton.
Yes.
Did you stay somewhere while you were here in Newton?
Yes.
Where?
At Common Lodge at Andover.
And when you stayed at the Econo Lodge in Andover, you had the Ford Focus with you?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you went to visit the pet store on Clinton?
Yes.
When would that have been about?
Somewhere the first week or 10 days of December.
And did you actually go in the store?
Yes.
And who was with you?
Lonnie Squads.
What were you wearing?
A black leather jacket that it was kind of a prize or a award from Jim Beam Company that for sales or whatever, after 150 cases in a year, they gave you this black leather jacket. And it had a Jim Beam insignia or whatever on the back.
Did it have a Hell's Angels or a motorcycle club insignia anywhere on it?
No.
Was Lonnie wearing anything that would indicate a motorcycle club or any type of Hell's Angels?
No, I believe he had his camel coat on like he always wore.
Either of you wearing any type of bandana or anything on your heads?
I just usually had a ball cap or stock cap on. I don't remember if Lonnie had like a stocking cap or something like that. I don't remember for sure.
Anything red and white on his head?
Not that I can remember.
When you went into Mr. Muller's store, what was the purpose of being there?
To try to find something that we could tell Barger that this is the wrong guy, that he's working the place himself, he's taking deliveries and putting them on the shelf himself, he's pricing, you know, the items, whatever. He's working in the store and doing carry out for customers himself. It's not just a front or a cover like Barger was saying it was.
And was that your initial impression?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you and Lonnie formed a plan to get Jeffrey Muller and take him by force or otherwise back to Missouri?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay. And when that plan was formulated, who made the plan?
Barger.
What were you told to do?
We were supposed to pick him up or get him, I think grab him, maybe was the word that was used, and then meet some other Hell's Angels who were supposed to interview him or interrogate him, whatever.
What was the purpose of interrogating?
To try to find out where the money was that was scammed from Royce Lights.
So what was the whole purpose in coming to New Jersey excuse me, to encounter this individual named Jeffrey Muller?
To recover the money from like a con artist or a scam, to get Royce Lake's money back.
And who was going to get the money?
Royce Lake's and Billy Barton.
Were you ever promised a share of that money?
It was mentioned, yes.
Were you ever promised $380,000?
No.
When you came to New Jersey that first time, did you actually see the individual Jeff Muller?
The man that's here?
Yes.
Yes.
And did you see anybody else in the store?
No. Just customers hanging out.
Did you visit his home at that time?
Drove by it.
How did you know where he lived?
Barger said to look up in the phone book and maybe he'll have like a residence address.
And did you find one?
Yes.
And you drove past the house?
Yes.
Did you go in a driveway or anything?
Turned around in it once and didn't even realize it was actually his driveway. But never went any further than just that stop, turn around and headed back thinking there's nothing up here, what's going on? It was a rural area.
Was there any discussion about committing a home invasion on Mr. Muller's home at that time?
Barger suggested it, yes.
What was your position?
No.
Why not?
Because had no idea it was getting close, like I say, first part of December or whatever, and you couldn't really see the house from the road, and it didn't know who was there, if there were the small children, whatever, grandkids present.
Did there come a time when you returned to Missouri?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lonnie Schwartz had ran out of one of his kinds of insulin. He had, at the time, was taking 2 different kinds, or 2 different doses, whatever, of different things.
So the mission was then terminated at that time?
Yes, fine.
And did you drive straight back to Missouri?
Yes.
In the rental car?
Yes.
Turn the car back to Billy?
Yes.
What, if anything, happened when you got back with regard to Billy Barger and you?
He was very upset.
What did he say?
What a failure I was because didn't get mission accomplished, didn't get the money collected, just wasted the whole trip. $2,000 down the drain for nothing. Chief isn't happy. It's going to be bad.
Did you see any emails?
Yes.
From who?
From Chief or Sonny to Kim Hunt.
Did Billy tell you at some point in time that you were going to return to New Jersey again?
Yes.
Did you ever tell Billy that you thought it was the wrong person?
Yes.
When would that have been in regard to 2009, 2010?
After the trip here, like mid-December, just like I say, sitting at the kitchen table because it's about the same weather there as it is here, temperature-wise. So we weren't outside at that time, but just sitting at the table going, this is the wrong guy.
Did you ever see a picture of the Jeffrey Muller you were looking for?
No.
Did Billy ever have one that you know of?
No.
Was a plan formulated to return to New Jersey sometime in January 2010?
Yes.
Who was going to go?
Lonnie Swarms and Wade Alon, myself.
And at that particular time, how were you going to get to New Jersey?
In my car.
And when you came to New Jersey in your car, those other 2 individuals accompanied you?
Yes.
Did you drive?
Yes.
How was that trip financed?
I had to myself
Why was that?
because I had failed on the first trip, and I had to make it right with Chief.
How did you feel about that?
I didn't know what to do.
Did you feel that something was going to happen to you because of the failure of the first trip?
I was more worried about what had happened to my son and my dad.
Did you come to New Jersey?
Yes.
When you came to New Jersey, approximately when would that have been?
first week of January, maybe it's a day or two before he was actually picked up.
And were there communications that were being had between yourself and Billy Barger?
Yes,
Were there communications between Andrew Wadle and Billy Barger?
yes,
Were there communications between Lonnie Swarns and Billy Barger?
yes,
Were there any communications that came to you that were at least alleged to have come from Sonny Barger or the chief?
yes,
Was there a large number of these text messages and communications?
yes,
Were they both emails and text messages?
yes,
Some of them were recovered, am I correct?
yes,
And you've seen them.
yes,
Were they actual copies of the text messages that were exchanged?
yes.
Some were not recovered, correct?
Yeah, the majority weren't recovered.
And do you know whether or not they were deleted by the various parties?
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
When you left to come to New Jersey, do you know whether Lonnie Swarns had a firearm?
Yes,
What kind did he have?
but it's a little automatic.
What about Andrew Wadle? Did he have a firearm?
Yes,
How about you?
yes,
What kind of firearm did you have?
a Colt 38.
Commonly referred to Detective Special
Yeah,
type?
a revolver, yes,
Was that your gun?
yes,
And when you left to Missouri, where did you put that gun?
in the center console of the car.
Did you ever remove it at any time from the console before the police ultimately got it in Missouri?
Just to go into the motel when we weren't in the car.
Okay. Did you ever carry it on you when you were in New Jersey?
No.
With regard to the first night that you were here, where did you stay the first night when you returned to New Jersey?
The Super 8 at Stroudsburg?
In Pennsylvania?
Yes,
That's the other side of the Delaware Water Gap Bridge?
yes.
Was that a pre-made plan?
Sort of, yes.
Why did you stay there as opposed to staying at the Econo Lodge again?
They're just a lot nicer place.
When you were at the Super 8 in Stroudsburg, did the three of you stay in one room?
Yes.
And what happened with regard to the license plates on your vehicle?
They were switched out and changed.
And who did that?
Andrew Wade.
Do you know why he did that?
Barger told him to.
And another set of license plates was put on your car.
Yes.
When your vehicle was driven here to New Jersey at that point in time, the first time on that January trip,
Right.
who drove?
I did.
And where was the destination initially?
Back to Clearfield, Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry, when you came to New Jersey,
Right.
where were you coming to in New Jersey when you left the Super 8?
The pet food store on Clinton Street.
Did you go to the pet food store?
Yes.
And what time of day would it have been?
Like after dark. I'm not sure. We first around maybe 5 o'clock.
And was there a plan that was made as to getting Mr. Jeffrey Muller?
I was supposed to grab him after he closed his store.
And how did you determine who Jeffrey Muller was at that point in time if you've never seen a picture of him?
Just that he was the one working the store and working the store. Just he was the one president of the building.
Was there anyone else there?
Like a 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old, like after school type help.
And at some point in time, did you anticipate that you were going to be able to complete your mission and get Mr. Muller into the motor vehicle?
Yes.
And take him back to
Yes.
Clearfield,
Yes.
Pennsylvania? Was that the pre-made plan to go to Clearfield?
Yes, that's what Barger started.
And did you see Mr. Muller at the store when you got to the store that day?
Yes.
What day would that have been if the ultimate encounter was on the 8th?
I think it was on Friday.
And with regard to your expectations at that point in time, when was it you expected that you would be able to get Mr. Muller?
That Friday.
Okay, approximately what time?
Whenever he closed.
And did you have an idea when that would be?
But I think 8 o'clock at night or somewhere around that.
Would it have been dark out at that time?
Yes,
Where did you park in the lot?
the lower level.
And were you able to see the pet food store from that location?
Yes,
Who was where in the car?
I was in the driver's seat. Lonnie was in the front seat, passenger side, and Andrew was in the back. I'm not sure which side.
And what happened that changed the plan?
Well, there was this other young guy working, and Mr. Muller came out of his store unexpected and jumped over that railing they referred to earlier and got in his pickup and left. And just left the boy there alone.
And did you follow Mr. Muller at that point in time in the pickup?
Yes, tried to.
Okay. What happened?
It's like every stoplight in town was in his favor. And we kept getting caught at the lights.
Why did you do that? Why did you follow him?
Suppose because Barger gave instructions to carjack.
Did you make it to his house that night?
Just drove by.
What did you see?
Several like lights, and because he has a long driveway, and it just, Lonnie and I just looked at each other and shook our heads like, no, not even considering it.
Where'd you go then?
Just back to Stroudsburg.
To the motel?
Yes,
Did you stay there that night?
yes,
Well, was a new plan formulated?
yes.
Was there any communication with William Barger about the new plan and what had happened the night before?
Yes, it was his orders to do the new plan.
And what was the new plan?
To get him the next morning when he opened, or this guy Deacon, who was supposed to be a leader of a group of nomads, was already here and was going to kill us if we didn't get him.
And had you been told about this individual named Deacon before?
Yes, several times.
Do you know where he was allegedly from?
Des Moines, Iowa.
And he was here, allegedly here?
Yes,
How did you learn that?
through text messages and emails that he was already had flown in and he was at Newark on his way coming up.
Were you concerned about this individual named Deacon?
Yes,
Was there a time then when you returned to Newton, New Jersey?
yes,
When would that have been?
the next morning.
And who drove?
I did. Or no, excuse me, that morning, Lonnie drove
Okay.
from the motel here.
What was the weather like?
It had just snowed a little bit, but it quit, and the sun wasn't out yet, but it had cleared off, and it was just, it stopped snowing, but it may have still been cloudy.
About what time of day was it when you left Stroudsburg?
Maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning.
And did you arrive in Newton at some point in time?
Yes,
And who was driving when you got to Newton?
Lonnie,
Where were you in the vehicle?
the front passenger's side,
Where was Andrew waiting?
in the back, back seat.
Did there come a time when the vehicle you were in was parked?
Yes,
Where was it parked?
at the store, at Mr. Miller's store.
And was it on the upper lot or the lower lot?
Yes, right straight out the front door.
Did you see the pickup truck that you had seen the day before that belonged to Mr. Muller?
Not when we arrived.
See anybody else there?
No,
Was there snow covering the parking lot at that time?
yes,
Did Mr. Muller arrive?
yes.
When he arrived, where did he travel, in what direction?
He went on past his store and parked on the lower left with his pickup facing back toward the parking lot directly in front of the store.
And where was that in relation to the vehicle you were in?
He went on past us and then ended up straight on in front of us.
And how long had you been there waiting for him to arrive before that occurred?
10, 15 minutes.
Where was the 38 Detective Special at that time?
In the center console.
At that point, did Mr. Muller get out of his motor vehicle?
Yes,
And did he come toward the location where your vehicle was?
yes.
And As he came along, which side of your motor vehicle did he walk along?
The driver's side,
And who was on that side?
but Lonnie Schwinn.
And was that part of the plan that Lonnie was going to be the one to get out?
Yes,
And then, in fact, is that what happened?
yes,
Now, where were you at the time when Lonnie got out of the car?
on passenger side.
Passenger side of the car or sitting
Yes.
in the car?
The passenger front seat.
And did Lonnie Swarns approach Mr. Mueller?
Yes,
And did you see what happened?
not exactly, no.
Do you know whether or not there were any words exchanged between the two of them?
Yes,
Could you hear them?
a good part, yes.
Okay. Did you see what Andrew Wadle did at that point in time?
No, I didn't see it.
Where was it in relation to the driver's side door of the car that the conversation took place?
Straight out front, where the door was open, just like one step away.
Did it become apparent that there was a physical encounter going on between the two of them?
Yes.
What did Andrew do?
He got out of the back seat on the driver's side, so both doors were open at that time.
Both doors, meaning driver's door and on the driver's front and the back door also?
Yes,
And is that the side of the car that Andrew was on?
that's where he ended up getting out of the car.
Okay, where was he when he was sitting in the car waiting for the arrival of Mr. Mueller?
I think he was sitting in the middle of the back seat, but I don't, not sure.
Do you know whether or not he had any weapons with him?
At the time, no.
Had you ever seen the stun gun?
Yes,
Okay, do you know who had it?
I think he did.
Did you have it?
No,
Did you ever have it?
no,
Have you ever used the stun gun?
no.
With regard to what happened, there was an altercation outside with Mr. Mueller and Mr. Swarns?
Yes,
And did Andrew participate?
yes.
Now, where were you when this was going on?
As I was getting out of the passenger side, I don't know how familiar you are with a Chevy Malibu, but they're a smaller car. And I had some difficulty getting out. My feet got tangled up, so I ended up falling down next to the car on the outside. And by the time I got up and walked around, they were picking up Mr. Mueller and putting him in the back seat.
Did you ever have any physical contact with Mr. Mueller at that point in time?
No,
Did you ever participate in putting him in the back seat? Sorry?
no, no, sir.
Mr. Mueller appeared to be saying anything at that point in time when he went in the back of the car?
Why are you doing this? What's going on? Something on that line.
And at that point in time, what did Andrew do with regard to getting back into the vehicle?
He got in the front passenger side,
And where did you go?
driver's seat.
And at the time when you went around the motor vehicle to get in the driver's seat, was Mr. Mueller already in the car?
They had just put him in and closed the door, and then I picked up like his hat and keys that were laying on the ground.
Who picked up the briefcase and the laptop?
I'm not sure.
Did you drive out of there then?
Yes,
And the route you followed was to go out the parking lot, make a right-hand turn, go up to the corner by the Exxon, make a left, and head out 94 to Delaware Water Gap?
yes,
And did there come a time when Mr. Mueller was zip-tied, so to speak?
yes.
Who did that?
Wait,
And where was he in the car?
up in the front passenger side,
And where was Lonnie Swarns?
the rear passenger side.
Approximately how far into the trip was it before the zip ties were applied?
Either right away getting on to Clinton Street or as soon as Highway 94. But still here.
Was that part of the plan?
Yes,
And did you drive the motor vehicle toward the Delaware Water Gap?
yes,
When you got to the Delaware Water Gap, there was a toll there, correct?
yes,
And you were familiar with it because you had passed through it before?
yes.
Excuse me. Did you have to pay the toll?
Yes,
And was that cash?
yes,
And I assume there was a toll taker there?
yes.
Wasn't one of those automatic ones thrown in the basket?
No, it was a person.
And what, if anything, took place with regard to Jeffrey Muller at that point when you got to that toll taker?
Just as we were pulling up, I heard Lonnie tell Mr. Muller to get his head down and don't try anything.
Did you see whether or not Lonnie had a firearm at that point in time?
No.
Did you ever see Andrew Wadle at any time use the taser on Mr. Muller?
No.
Did you learn at some point in time that there was an allegation that it was used?
Yes.
I mean, stun gun.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Did you go through the toll then?
Yes.
And continued on Route 80?
Yes.
And where is Clearfield, Pennsylvania in relation to the Delaware Water Gap, if you know?
About halfway across the state.
Did you have to stop for gas between the Delaware Water Gap and Clearfield?
No.
When you got to Clearfield, did you need to gas up?
I don't remember if that's the first place I put it in or not, but somewhere in that area.
Was there ever a discussion about taking Mr. Muller to a cabin near Clearfield?
That was discussed, yes.
When?
In Missouri.
And who was it that discussed the cabin?
Billy Barger.
Were you ever given any directions to where a cabin might be in the Clearfield area?
No.
Were you ever told who it was you were going to meet in the Clearfield area?
Some Hell's Angels.
And were you told how many?
No.
When you got there to Clearfield, where did you go?
The first exit, and parked at a store, a convenience store.
And was there communication back and forth with Missouri at that point in time?
Yes.
Who took care of that?
Lonnie Schwartz.
And at some point in time, did you remain there for a few minutes or a period?
Maybe 45 minutes, or could be even an hour, I don't remember exactly.
And there came a time when you left?
Yes.
Why did you leave at that point?
Just that there's nothing going on here. We've been in this one place too long. We gotta go.
Were you told to leave?
No.
Where did you go to?
The next exit, we just parked at another convenience store.
And was there additional communication?
Yes.
And what was the communication about?
That we had failed on the night before, and we were on our own. Nobody was going to come to help after about another 45 minutes or an hour.
Was there ever an instruction to bring him back to Missouri?
Not at that time, but later there was.
Okay. Were you given an instruction what direction to go in?
Head toward, he called it oil can, but it was Cleveland, is what he was, Ohio is what he was referring to as oil can.
Were you familiar with that area of the trip?
The interstate I've been on before, yes, but I just head in that direction, yes.
And during the course of this time, was there conversation going on between Mr. Muller in the motor vehicle and either you, Lonnie Swarns, or Andrew?
Yes.
What was the substance of the conversation from Mr. Muller?
He was just saying, you know, I'm not the right guy. I'm not the one you're looking for. What are you after? Who are you looking for? And I can understand.
Was there ever an explanation given to him as to the individual that was being sought with regard to Roy Slates?
Yes.
Did Mr. Muller in the car react to that?
Yes, he didn't. If I remember right, it's like he didn't know anything about any of that. What are you talking about? He just didn't know anything about it.
And were you starting to formulate an opinion as to who this Jeff Muller was that you had in the car?
Yes.
What was that opinion?
Well, I asked him what his middle initial was or middle name was, and I believe he said it at that time, you know, M, or I don't remember what his middle name was, but it wasn't the Jeffrey W. like we were supposed to be looking for. It was Jeffrey M.
So at some point in time, you were starting to learn that you thought you had the wrong guy,
Yes.
confirming what you originally had thought.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Did you communicate directly yourself or indirectly through one of the other two individuals with Billy Barger at that time?
No, I was driving, and either Andrew did or Lonnie did. That this is the wrong guy.
And when you got to Oil Can or Cleveland, were you given further instructions?
But before we ever turned off where the interstate splits at Akron, I believe it is, You can either go to Cleveland or go on straight ahead, whatever. He received another email or text message, whichever back, that there's not going to be any help from Oil Can. Go on toward Columbus and drive careful, whatever, don't attract any attention. But we were just told to keep on coming to the west.
What was the expectation you had of what was going to happen with regard to Mr. Mueller when the Hells Angels were encountered to interrogate him or do whatever it was? What was your expectation?
That they were supposedly going to get bank account information or whatever and withdraw the funds from its account that way.
And was it your belief that you were then going to get Mr. Mueller back?
I don't know what would have happened.
Was there ever a discussion that Mr. Mueller was going to be killed?
There was the talk of it from Barger.
What about with regard to you and Lonnie and Andrew? Was there any talk about killing Mr. Mueller at any time?
It was brought up on what to do or what's going to happen with him, and it was more in not really passing, but it was more in not as a direct plan, but just in conversation.
Did you ever seriously consider that Mr. Mueller was going to be killed?
I didn't know. I didn't think so, but I didn't know for sure.
Did you think you were going to do it?
No.
Billy Barger had ordered you to do it, would you have done it?
No.
When you concluded that this was the wrong Jeff Mueller,
Yes.
what, if anything, happened with regard to communication to Billy Barger?
Just said it again, it was the wrong one, but he sent back another email or text message, whatever, that, keep coming this way, and it's the right one. This guy's a con man. He runs these different middle names, different birth dates as part of his scam or his con.
Did you suggest that perhaps you should let him go or take him back to New Jersey at any time, Billy Barger?
Yeah, we just need to, this is the wrong guy, we just need to let it go.
What was the reply that came after you did that?
I don't remember exactly what it was at that time, but he was very upset. It was like, no, don't you dare let it go.
Did there come a time when Lonnie Sworn showed you an email or a text message from Billy Barger that was directed to him regarding you?
Yes.
And where approximately were you when you saw that?
On the bypass going around the north side of St. Louis. We just crossed into Missouri.
And what, if anything, was the message that had been texted to Lonnie Sworn?
And it said I was asking too many questions and being too uncooperative and to kill me when we got back into Missouri.
And that was an instruction that you took was from Billy to Lonnie?
Yes.
Who showed you that message?
Lonnie.
Did you have any conversation or any discussion with Lonnie about that message?
Not verbally, no.
What did you do?
He held his arm up in between the front seats, and I read the message kind of off to my side, looking down. And then I looked in the mirror at him, and he just shook his head like, after I read it, that he wouldn't do that.
Were you sure that Lonnie wouldn't do it?
I didn't know.
Were your instructions to bring him back then to Missouri?
At that point, yes, they were.
And when he got to Missouri, what was the expectation?
That Billy would interview him or interrogate him and get the information out of him, because he still was making out that this is the right one and the money's got to be somewhere and he could get a hold of it.
Made a couple of stops for fuel fill-ups and maybe coffee or drinks or something, is that correct?
Yes.
Snacks? And at some point in time, did Mr. Mueller indicate that he needed to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
And what were the circumstances under which that happened or didn't happen?
Just went back further behind some of these places, in amongst like some old semi-trailers or whatever, and could get out without anybody seeing what was going on. And it was after dark. So just parked and got him out of the car and let him go to the bathroom.
What about the zip ties? What happened with the zip ties when he went to the bathroom?
They were loose enough that he could get his hands and feet out of, so he could handle himself going to the bathroom.
Did you offer him anything to drink at any time?
Yes.
What?
Water, and I don't remember if anything else was offered or not, but water is about the only thing he could accept.
What about food?
Yes.
What'd you offer?
Some crackers with cheese, you know, the little prepackaged ones, jerky, granola bar, just kind of odds and ends snacks we had.
Did there come a time when you got to Missouri or close to it and you had to fuel up again?
Yes.
And at that point in time, was it decided that Andrew would drive?
Yes.
You turned over the motor vehicle to Andrew?
Yes.
Where were you then in the vehicle?
The front passenger seat.
And where was Lonnie Sworns?
In the back passenger seat.
Would it be fair to say then that Lonnie Sworns was most of the trip back from New Jersey in the back seat with the Mr. Muller?
Yeah, the entire time, yes.
Had you slept from the time that you had left the Super 8 on the morning of the 8th of January?
No.
And here you are, how many miles when you're getting into Missouri?
Oh, somewhere around 1,000.
Were you familiar with Rick's C-Store, the convenience store there?
No, I'd never been there before. I'd seen it on the side of the highway, but I'd never stopped there.
Did there come a time when a car problem occurred?
Yes.
And where were you when that happened?
A little bit further east of Rick's C-Store.
How many miles?
Maybe 2.
And what happened with regard to the car?
I believe the fuel line froze up, like we got some gas with water in it or something, and it was below 0 that morning.
What was the temperature at that point in time?
I think 5 below 0 is what I seen on like a bank clock or whatever.
Did you at that point in time get somebody that stopped by to help you pull the vehicle to Rick's C-Store?
Yes.
Now, you've been present in court when the description of what happened at Rick's C-Store, am I correct?
Yes.
And you were obviously there at that time, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, was there a communication to Billy Barger indicating where you were?
Yes.
And did you do that or one of the others do that?
All of us did.
And were you able to tell him where you were?
Yes.
And what was your understanding as to Billy Barger's intentions at that point?
He was at my home, like always. He got into Kim Hunter's car, took her car, and headed that direction to come pick him up.
Was he by himself?
Yes.
Did you and Lonnie and Andrew at any time discuss the fact that Billy was coming from the other direction?
Yes.
And when you were there in the parking lot, did you have an expectation when he might arrive?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you tried to start the car?
Oh, constantly, yes.
Did you go in the store at any time to buy anything?
Yes.
What did you buy?
Starter fluid, ether, whatever you want to call it, heat. It's a brand of gasoline antifreeze.
Were you able to get the car started? Were you at some point in time under the hood and Andrew was trying to get it started, crank it?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did Lonnie and Andrew go into the store?
Yes.
Had you formulated some idea in your mind as to what was going to happen next in this journey?
Yes.
What was that?
That if Andy, as soon as Lonnie would go in the store, Andy would go in shortly after, and I'd sit in the car and act like I was asleep.
And what did you want to happen?
Mr. Muller to get out and get away.
What about the welfare of your son and your father and yourself and Billy Barger and the Hells Angels? And what was going through your mind at that point?
At that time, I knew Billy wasn't at the house, so he could not get a hold of my son, and he had other things on his mind. I could get in touch with them and get them hid or safe before Billy would know what was going on.
And what did you think was going to happen when Billy got there to the location in the Rick C store?
Well, I gave him false directions to get him to go on past. I sent him another like 15, 17 miles further east from where we were actually located, just to waste his time.
Did Mr. Mueller ask you at some point in time about loosening the zip ties on his foot so that he could scratch his foot?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
Sure. I know what that's like, sure.
And he was covered with a blanket at that time?
Yes.
No heat in the vehicle, correct?
No, it wasn't running.
Was there a point in time when Lonnie and Andrew were in the store and Mr. Mueller was able to get out of the car?
Yes.
And at that time, what were you doing?
Sitting in the front driver's seat and had my head back, acting like that.
Were you asleep? Did you know whether or not the door on the passenger side rear was child-proof lock?
No, it was not,
Why did you know that?
because Lonnie was using it to get in and out. And I knew he was pulling the latch on the inside hand to get out.
What did you think was going to happen to you if Mr. Mueller got out of the car and ran?
I was hoping he'd get somewhere and get completely away while Lonnie and Andy were still in the store.
Did you ever have a discussion with Lonnie and Andy about a plan to fall asleep and let Mr. Mueller leave or go?
Not with Lonnie, but with Andy.
When was that?
Just earlier, underneath the hood of the car, when Lonnie was telling us to take the fuel filter off and take it in and wash it out. And it was, we were locating it because I hadn't had the car that long, but it was underneath in the back by the fuel tank instead of up underneath the hood. So we had a few minutes alone.
Did Andrew indicate one way or the other whether he was in agreement with that?
Okay. As soon as Lonnie went in, he'd go in.
What
It
happened?
wasn't talked to in great detail, but it was agreed on.
What happened?
Lonnie went in, and then Andy just shortly after that said he needed to go in and get more. Okay, go ahead.
Now, what happened after Mr. Mueller got out of the vehicle and started to go across the lot?
He headed to like the white, I think they referred to it as SUV, and then I got out on the driver's side and just kind of slowly went that direction. I wasn't in fast pursuit or anything like that. I just kind of walked over.
What happened with regard to Lonnie and Andrew?
They came out of the store right away.
And did you have any conversation with the owner of that white SUV at that time?
Yes.
And you saw the video of the events that happened that were recorded outside Rixie's
Yes.
store, correct?
Yes.
Were you on that video?
Yes.
Which one of them was you?
I was standing behind it for most of the time that I wasn't talking to the man who owned the white SUV.
You were the larger of the people that was there, I assume? Behind you, something was going on.
Yeah, I didn't see for sure, but yes, it was.
Okay, at the time you didn't see it,
Right.
but you're seeing the video now.
Yes.
Who was with Mr. Mueller at that time?
Lonnie Swan.
And where was Andrew at that time?
He came out of the store later, and he was the second one to get to him.
Did Mr. Mueller, was Mr. Mueller directed toward the vehicle?
Yes.
Who did that?
Lonnie and Andy.
And did you participate in that?
I went over that direction when you see on the video that I walked on past the SUV. But then when they got close, I just kind of stood there, and Mr. Mueller was thrashing around or trying to get away from him, and then I fell backwards.
I see. Did Mr. Mueller ever strike you and cause you to fall backwards?
We ran into each other, is what, and then I went down. It was a great way to get out of the way.
Were you participating in trying to put him into the car at that time?
No.
You heard Mr. The parole officer, you heard him discuss how he saw you and Lonnie carrying Mr. Mueller under the arms and then Andrew picking up the legs and putting him in the car?
Yes.
You heard that testimony, correct?
Yes.
Was that correct?
No.
Did you ever carry Mr. Mueller under his arms back to the car?
No.
And at that point in time, the three of you were outside of the car having a discussion, correct? You and Andrew and Lonnie?
Yes.
And Mr. Muller was in the car?
As soon as he got put in the driver's side back seat, he went right straight out across and got back out on the passenger side again. He just crawled right through.
I see. So when he was put back in the car, he went in on the driver's side rear door.
Uh-huh.
And the other door, of course, was open.
Yes.
Okay. What did you do at that point in time?
I just stood there. And he went on, then he got into the store at that time. Instead of going for another vehicle, he went right straight into the store.
Did you go in the store at that point?
No.
Did you ever say to anyone in the store, we're taking him to a mental hospital at some location in El Dorado?
No, I told that to the guy in the white SUV.
And that would have been earlier before he was put back in the car?
Yes.
And if I could just ask you to repeat, who put him back in the car?
Lonnie and Andy.
Was it still your plan that you wanted to see Mr. Muller get away at that point?
Yes.
What did you do at that point?
Well, before that, there was a point after I told the man in the white SUV that we were taking him to a mental hospital in El Dorado Springs, I went into the store and said the same thing.
I see. And was there any discussion that the police were on their way?
I told him I didn't have to call, that that's what was going on, because I didn't know what Lonnie was going to do. I knew what Andy's intention
When you
was.
came out of the store, what did you do?
Just went back over to the car.
And Mr. Muller was then inside the store at that time?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Because after I talked to the man with the white SUV, I went into the store while Lonnie and Andy had him in the other corner of the parking lot, and then I walked over in front of where they were coming, and that's when I fell down.
I see. At some point in time, were you advised that Billy was 20 minutes away?
Yes.
Did you convey that to Mr. Muller at that point in time?
I think he overheard us talking about it.
Did it ever occur to you that during the course of bringing Jeffrey Muller from New Jersey to Missouri, that you did not hide your identity?
Yes, it occurred, but I didn't know what to do.
When Andrew Wadle came into court, he testified at one time that there was a discussion. Strike that. Mr. Muller, I believe, testified that there was a discussion between Andrew and he, wherein he said that he'll kill you, meaning you would kill Mr. Muller.
I remember the testimony, but I don't remember the incident.
Okay. You don't remember nodding your head that you would do whatever was told?
No.
Police came, correct? Did Billy Barger ever arrive?
No.
When the police came to that location, where were you?
By the LP gas bottle rack on the side of the store.
And when the police came there, did you identify yourself?
No.
Did they ask you to?
Yes, when they asked, yes.
Okay. Did you ever run away?
No.
Did you ever think about running away?
No.
Did you have an opportunity that you could have ran away?
Oh, yes.
How long was it from the time Mr. Muller went into the store until the police arrived?
Under 5 minutes.
And during that time, what were you doing?
Waiting, just standing outside or sitting on the curb. It was cold that morning, but just waiting outside for the police to arrive.
Did you know you were going to get arrested?
I didn't know really what was going to happen.
At that point in time, when you were arrested, you were taken to the Lake Ozark Police Department, as I understand it, correct?
Yes.
And ultimately, your vehicle was brought to that location?
Yes.
Did you see your vehicle at that location when you were there?
No.
When you were taken to the Lake Ozark Police Department, were you asked any questions about what had happened by them?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you reply at that point?
At first, stayed with that we were taken into the mental hospital in Red Springs, but then, like, yes, we were in New Jersey.
And at some point, you were incarcerated in the Miller County Jail, correct?
Yes.
Who else was with you at the Miller County Jail?
They kept us separate, but they, from what I understand, Andrew and Wadel and Lonnie Sworns were both there too.
Did there come a time when you were asked to give a statement to law enforcement officers from the Vernon County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
And they were people that you knew, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And they were from Nevada?
Yes.
What's the capital of Vernon County?
Nevada.
And you saw them come into court and testify, Randall, Schloop,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Those were individuals who you talked to at some point in time?
Shane Simmons and Sloop were the ones that were there that first night.
Okay. And at that point in time, you asked for an attorney?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you do after that initial meeting?
Just they took us back to the jail, or separately, but I was taken back to the jail.
Were you allowed to make any communications?
Yes.
And who did you attempt to communicate with?
My dad, my son, and Billy Barger.
Were you able to contact any of them?
Yes.
Who did you contact?
Well, just a normal conversation with my dad and son, but Billy Barger.
And did you talk to Billy?
Yes.
And what was the substance of the conversation?
He had said before they even had the meeting with the first law enforcement, with Shane Simmons and Steve Sloop, that whatever you do, don't talk to anybody about it. The family is getting you an attorney, and wait till you get an attorney to say anything. And that's what I called that night to say, yes, they tried, but have you got an attorney yet?
Now, at that point in time, what was your belief as to the identity of William Barger?
He was the son of Sonny Barger.
And what was your belief with regard to his association with the Hells Angels?
That he was, excuse me, who he claimed to be, that he was starting his own chapter, and he was Sonny Barger's son.
Did you attempt to have a second conversation with William Barger?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
The payphone in the jail.
And payphone meaning collect call you had to
Yes.
make?
Yes.
Okay. Did you try to contact Billy Barger?
Yes.
Were you able to contact him at that point?
Yes.
This is the second time.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with him about an attorney?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
The first one was not able to because he had a conflict of interest. That is a man I've used for like business things for years at home. He was not able to because Billy Barger also had his services, so he had a conflict of interest. But the family was still trying to find an attorney. Don't say anything to nobody because it'll be bad.
At that point in time, did you still believe that Billy Barger was who he said he was?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you learned from someone that he was not who he said he was?
Yes.
Did you believe it?
I was very, very skeptical at first.
How did you learn that he was not who he said he was?
When I called Billy Barger's phone again, and Kim Hunter answered.
And where was Billy at that time?
In the Vernon County Jail.
He had been arrested?
Yes.
And apparently you received information with regard to Billy Barger's identity.
What Kim Hunter was telling me, yes.
What information did you receive?
That he was a fraud, a fake, the whole thing has just been a con. He's been using all of us. We've just been his puppets. He made fools out of all of us and got us all in real trouble.
How did you feel with regard to the threats that he had made toward you?
I didn't know what to think at the time. I didn't know if I could believe her or what to believe.
Did there come a time when you accepted the fact that Billy Barger was not who he said he was?
Yes, a little later than that.
What did you do as a result of that?
She told me that as soon as that they had done the search warrant, or searched the house, whatever, and arrested him, and found things connected with the home invasion and with the abduction of Mr. Mueller, that they found all of that. They know Billy is involved. They know he's a fraud. Just believe me, believe is what she kept saying. I feel like a fool. He's taking advantage of me. I think she kept going on about, poor her more than anybody else, but that she'd been taken advantage of, but that we'd all been taken advantage of, and he's a fake.
How did you feel at that time?
I didn't know whether to believe her or if it was like a setup type thing, seeing if I'll say something bad against him, being it was his phone, and I knew he knew how to record or had something on his phone to record phone calls, so because he played things back before. I didn't know what to believe.
Did you accept the fact that he was not Sonny Barger's son at some point in time?
Yes, but later I did.
How much later?
Well, she said if I had any doubts that the Vernon County Sheriff, Ron Peckman, and Shane Simmons had showed her proof that Billy Barger was a fraud. And I'm like, what? She said, it's proof. He doesn't, Sonny Barger doesn't even have a son. They told me this, and they told me that, and they told me other things. And if I didn't believe her, to call the sheriff.
What'd you do?
Well, I said, the sheriff's not gonna accept a collect call from. She said, oh yes, he will. He wants to talk to you. And I called the sheriff's office number, and he accepted the call. The dispatcher answered and put him on the phone right away. I mean, direct straight to the sheriff.
Did you make arrangements to meet with him and his deputy?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be him and John Randall that would be coming to talk to me, but yes, I made arrangements for them to come whenever, as soon as they could get there. I think is how we left it.
When they got there, did you accept the fact that Billy Barger was not who he had said he was?
Not right at the beginning, no.
Did they show you proof?
It was more on their word, but it was Shane Simmons and Steve Sloop, two that I'd asked to talk to the other two, but here these guys are, and it was just explained that they were the ones more in charge of the investigation than John Randall or the sheriff himself were. They had other things to do, whatever, so they couldn't make the trip.
Did there come a time when you gave a statement to the Vernon County Sheriff's people regarding what had happened?
Yes, that same time, yes.
And why did you give them a statement at that time rather than to wait for an attorney?
I had a strange feeling, but I was starting to believe that, things just didn't add up, that, okay, maybe he is a fraud. It could very well be.
Were you concerned any more about the threats that he had made?
Not because he was locked up in Vernon County Jail, and that's what they kept assuring me, is there's no way he can hurt your son and your dad because he is in jail. We have him in custody.
What about the Hells Angels? Did you talk to him about them?
Yes.
Were you concerned about the Hells Angels at that point?
Yes.
Why would you talk to the police then if you were concerned about the Hells Angels?
Because they had Billy Barger in custody. I've just taken their word for it.
And did you take their word for it that he wasn't who he said he was originally?
During that interview, and they were there for quite a while that day that we talked. So I finally basically was convinced that they're telling the truth.
By the time you were brought back to Newton, New Jersey in June of that year, 2010,
right,
and you were interviewed by Detective Mueller and Detective Mueller
Yes.
here in Newton, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you gave the recorded statement that was presented to the court,
Yes, sir.
right? At that point in time, was there any doubt in your mind that Billy Barger was not the son of Sonny Barger?
No, not anymore.
Was there any doubt in your mind that he was not associated with the Hells Angels?
No.
Why did all of this happen?
Billy Barger ordered.
Could have said no, couldn't you?
I didn't know what to do.
Could have called law enforcement, am I right?
I was told I was being followed and knew my whereabouts all the time. And I wasn't even allowed to go to the sheriff's office or the courthouse to fill the vending machines I had there or to do any repairs to them. I was to avoid law enforcement at all times.
Were you in fear for your own safety?
Yes,
Were you in fear for the safety of your son and your father?
yes.
If you had it to do all over again under the same circumstances, what would you do?
I don't know. To protect my son. I don't know. And just try to keep everybody from getting hurt like I tried this.
Are you sorry for what happened to Jeffrey Mueller from Newton, New Jersey, and circumstances you put him in?
Yes.
Are there any words you could say to him that would make it better, that you know?
I don't know what he's willing to accept, but I just wish it would have never happened. And please believe I did everything I could to keep harm from coming to you. I didn't want anybody to get hurt from the beginning.
Is it your testimony that you basically allowed him to escape?
Yes.
Why did you determine to allow him to escape?
It was the wrong thing.
Were you afraid that Billy Barger and the Hells Angels would do something to him?
Yes.
What?
As far as I know from what Barger told me on the Scammell thing, you don't leave witnesses. So I think Billy Barger was capable and would have killed him if he would ever got hold of him.
If you had turned Billy Barger in at some point in time and refused to follow his orders, what would have happened to Doug Stangeland?
I'd probably been killed.
What would have happened to his family?
Killed.
Did that play in any way on why things happened the way that they did, Doug?
Yes.
When you were speaking to Detective Mueller of the Newton Police Department, you gave a statement to him, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said that you weren't remorseful and you weren't emotional.
Yes.
How did you feel at the time when you were giving the statement to him?
Just total relief that I was finally here to talk to the main detective of the whole case and give him the statement and whatever. Like my attorney in Missouri said, she didn't know why they were wanting to go through all this hassle. I offered to drive here after the judge gave me the furlough at home to see my dad and son. I said, we'll just drive here. I didn't have no reason not to. I wanted to cooperate. I had been. And I was just completely at ease. And they were treating me good or decent, you know, not being rude or smart. And just like normal conversation, trying to explain to them what happened.
Is there anything that you feel you could do to make this whole situation better?
Not the way it's turned out now, no.
Would you have gone to the Scammell residence or come to New Jersey to kidnap Jeff Mueller had it not been for those threats?
No, not at all.
Anything that you feel you need to tell us before I say I don't have any further questions of Doug Stanley?
The incident with the sheriff and the deputy of Bates County, I was present at that meeting. And when I seen that they accepted Billy Barger's explanation for starting his new chapter, for starting a legitimate business, for everything he planned on doing and who he portrayed himself to be, and that there was 100 nomads, that was the number he used. I believe that were within just a few hours away at any time that could wipe out the whole town of Butler or Nevada, and whatever they wanted to do, they would do, and nobody could stop them. When the Bates County Sheriff did not, they investigated, but they did not follow up with any charges on threatening the life of law enforcement. I figured that's exactly who that guy was, because who else in the world would get by with threatening to blow off the heads and being recorded on the sheriff's voicemail for his cell phone? If he wasn't Sonny Barger's son, I didn't want to mess with him anyway, because they wouldn't touch him.
I have no further questions, Jim.